If you've been wanting to print DTF transfers right from home, you're going to want to watch this video all the way through. I also want to say this is a follow-up video from the first review I made about this printer. If you want to check out my very first impressions on this printer, you can click this video up above. But if you want a very thorough and detailed step-by-step of this printer, this is the video for you. Now let's go over what you can expect from this video. This is what's going to be covered in this video in order, starting from the printer preparations before you even print anything, the software setup, the entire printing process, the DTF powder preparations, the oven process, the application and pressing steps, the most frequently asked questions I get about this printer, the comparison with other transfer printing methods, pros and cons, and the cost and a coupon code at the end. Again, I strongly recommend watching this video all the way through because there's a lot of troubleshooting tips throughout the video. The first thing we're going to talk about is printer prep, and this is so vital for having your prints come out correctly, so let's get right into it. First step is to check your waste ink, and if it's very filled up, you're going to want to go ahead and empty that out. I definitely recommend having napkins nearby because this can get pretty messy. This may not apply to you if you don't print a lot, but make sure to check this often. And I don't leave the container spotless or anything, I just quickly rinse it out and then I replace it. Now I like to go ahead and assess my white ink and make sure that it's looking good for printing. The first thing I do is take a cotton swab that came with the printer and I like to stir around the white ink just to encourage good ink flow. A key point that I want to make for this video is that your white ink is going to need a lot more love and care than the others. Next, I'm going to open up the top and head over to the ink cartridges. I'm going to pull out both of the whites and make sure that the ink is looking nice and full in there, and as you can see, there's some missing spots. I'm doing the same thing for the second white cartridge, and it might be hard to tell on camera, but that ink is not looking full in there. Watching this now, and it's definitely hard to tell, but what you're looking for is that whole circle completely full of ink. This is a vital step I always do before printing because this has caused me so much problems in the past. What I'm going to do is take a syringe that came with the printer, and I'm just going to extract 5 milliliters from each of the ink cartridges. And again, it's very hard to tell on camera, but you can kind of see that that circle is now filling up. And again, I'm going to do the same thing to that second cartridge. Just go ahead and recycle the ink and put it right back into the white container. Now what I'm going to do may seem a little silly, but I'm going to take those two cartridges and I'm just going to shake them really, really good. And you can see now that the ink is looking nice and full, it looks so much better. So I'm just going to put those back in their spots. It's time to turn on the printer and make sure that you're turning it on from the back and the front. This is actually a common user error that I fell victim to as well. I'm opening up the ProRip software that comes with the printer, and the first thing I'm going to do is run a printhead cleaning. And you can do this by clicking on the arrows on the top right corner, and then anywhere on the page you're just going to want to go ahead and right click and select printer preferences. And under the maintenance tab, go ahead and select head cleaning and then click start. The printhead cleaning takes about 5 minutes give or take, and this is actually what your daily maintenance is going to look like. Even when I do print, and this is just my preference, I like to go ahead and do a printhead cleaning no matter what. But if you're not printing every single day or often, you definitely want to do a printhead cleaning every day. Once that's done, you can go ahead and run a nozzle check if you like, but I'm going to skip it. This is optional, but I like to preheat my oven while I do this next step. It's time to get into the software setup, and here's a little summary of what we're going to be going over. I do want to mention that the software comes with the printer, however, it is only Windows compatible and it will not run on Mac. To add your artwork into the software, you're going to click on the little picture icon with the plus sign and drag in whichever file you want. I'm going to change my canvas size to 12 by 12, and I'm going to do that by clicking the little box with the arrow through it and go ahead and enter 12 by 12. I'm now going to size down my artwork, and you can do this by just clicking on the little arrow in the corner of the artwork and dragging it down however far you want. This is a tip if you struggle with your white ink not printing correctly. On the right hand side under CMYK, you can see white 1 and white 2, and you want to make sure that they both have selected 100% white under any colored pixel. If that doesn't fix it, then check your white ink settings. You can do this by clicking the rip button at the top of the screen and making sure that both of those ink settings are over 85%. When you got your artwork how you like it, go ahead and click the rip button at the top of the screen again. And every time that you're going to print something, make sure that the mirror option is selected. You also want to change the DPI to the highest setting. And now you're all good to go, so click print at the bottom of the screen. And that's truly how simple it is. The software is really user-friendly. I do also want to share with you guys the option to print multiple prints at a time. Just to note, the widest that you can print on this machine is 13 inches. You can edit the length by clicking the little box with the line through it at the top of the screen and making it as long as you want. All you have to do is copy and paste your design and put as many as you want on there. You can also insert different artwork and print multiple designs at a time. Now let's dive into the whole printing process. A design like this that is roughly 12 by 12 inches is going to take around 5 to 6 minutes to print. And yes, that may seem like a long time, but just remember that there are 3 layers printing on this transfer. Sometimes quality takes a little longer and it's not worth sacrificing just to save some time. Something like a 9x4 transfer might take around 3 minutes or so, and then something even smaller than that, like a 4x4, might take up to like a minute. Really just depends on the size of the transfer that you're going to be printing. For example, if you were to print something that is 13 inches wide and then maybe even like 17 inches long, it's going to take a lot longer than a 12 by 12. Here's a little hack that I like to do if you're printing multiple designs at the same time. You can start cutting the transfers that have already printed and get those prepped and ready for the oven while the rest of the transfers are still printing. I find that this really helps speed up the process a lot faster. And here I just wanted to show you guys why it's so important to assess your white ink before printing so you get these nice seamless and pigmented layers. After printing, I just take a box cutter and there's a little slit on the black metal part where I just cut the transfer from. Let's move on to the next step, the DTF powder prep, to get these transfers ready to go into the oven. You're going to be needing a bin or a container. This is the one that I'm using and this is from Michaels. I like this one because it has a lid to store that excess DTF powder. And I don't recommend an open bin one because DTF powder can be harmful to humans and you don't want that lingering around in your air. This is the DTF powder that I'm using and it did come with the printer, and all I'm going to do is sprinkle that all over the transfer. After that, I'm going to spread all that powder back and forth until I see that all of the transfer has been evenly coated. Also, be careful not to touch your design at all until it's fully cured and out of the oven. If you smear your design, it's ruined and you're going to have to start over again. And make sure to shake off any excess powder. And now your transfer is ready to go in the oven. The oven is nothing fancy or complicated. It's actually pretty simple, so let's move on to the process. As I mentioned earlier, I like to preheat the oven while my transfers are printing. You're going to set the oven temperature to 135 degrees for 230 seconds. And then all you do is put your transfer in there and start the timer. And just for some size reference, I wanted you to see what the oven looks like with the 12 by 12 transfer in there. For a size like this, you'll only be able to do one transfer at a time, but here's some examples of some different size transfers. Once the 230 seconds are up, the timer will go off and your print is now fully cured. And you're ready to press, so let's go over what that's going to look like. You will be needing a commercial grade heat press for this. I am using the HTV Ron Auto Press. If you have a manual press, go ahead and set your pressure to like a medium firm. And you're going to set your temperature at 320 degrees for 30 seconds. Always do a pre-press before your actual transfer to get rid of any wrinkles in the fabric. Now align your transfer, and some people like to put a Teflon sheet on this first press, but personally I have never had an issue without it. And I personally feel that it adheres better without the Teflon sheet on the first press, but that's just me. After you press the transfer, do not peel it off. This is a cold peel, so we're going to wait until it cools down. Always feel the transfer, make sure that it's not hot, and go ahead and peel this off and it should slide off like butter. It should feel super smooth and blended into the fabric. We're now going to do our second press, and this time you will need a Teflon sheet to cover the design. And I just pressed this for another 30 seconds. And that's it. The entire process is now complete, and now your garment is ready to use. Now let's go over some of the most frequently asked questions about this printer. What if I go on vacation? When you order the printer, it actually comes with a vacation mode system. And as you can see, I have already tried mine out and it was successful. It comes with nozzle protection fluid, a little container to put that fluid in, and some extra cartridges with tubes to run the fluid through. Can you press on 100% cotton, and can you press on black garments? The answer to both of those questions is yes. The shirt that I pressed above is 100% cotton and obviously black, and look how beautiful the colors stand out on this. Can this make UV DTF transfers? This printer is strictly for DTF transfers that go on garments. UV DTF transfers are like permanent stickers for hard surfaces. But if you guys want to see me review a UV DTF printer, let me know in the comments down below. Do these transfers come off in the wash? No, they do not. As you can see, I posted this video over 2 months ago, so this sweater has gotten a lot of wears. There's a little bit of wrinkling on the sweatshirt, but the design still looks brand new. There are no signs of cracking anywhere. Now let's talk about the comparison between this DTF printer and some other printing methods. First off, we've got heat transfer vinyl. If you're a crafter, you will know how much of a headache heat transfer vinyl really is. I used to use it all the time in the first stages of my business, and on the screen are some examples of that. So in comparison to heat transfer vinyl, there is no weeding, no cutting, or no layering involved in the DTF process. Colors and designs are also very limited by heat transfer vinyl because everything needs to be cut on the machine and it has to be separated by shapes. I personally have never used the sublimation method, but I do know for a fact that you have to press on 70% or more polyester fabric. So 100% cotton is out of the picture for that, and you cannot press on any black garments. I have seen sublimated garments, and this is just my personal opinion, but the quality is not there, at least for me. I feel like it looks a little bit lower, a little bit more like pixelated, if that makes sense, but it's just not there for me. I do have a lot of experience with screen print transfers, and here's my thoughts on that. Screen print transfers are great, but you do need a manual heat press. They're not compatible with auto presses, and the press time is only around 7 to 10 seconds, which is super quick. There is a big but here, and let's talk about that. The first thing being, these are not great for full colored prints, and anything full colored will be very expensive. Secondly, you have to order these in bulk or they will cost you an arm and a leg. And this is not great when you're first starting out because you don't know what designs are going to sell well yet. And then you might end up like me with a bunch of transfers that you can't get rid of instead of testing designs first with a DTF printer. And lastly, I want to touch on eco-solvent transfers because I'm very familiar with those as well. I used to print eco-solvent transfers from home by converting my Epson EcoTank 15000 printer, which also took a lot of time to print as well for the best quality. And after printing, you do have to cut it on a cutting machine, which takes a little bit of additional time. The weeding is fairly easy, but you do have to purchase additional transfer tape. Not to mention the big roll of printable heat transfer vinyl that can be pretty costly, and you have to cut them all down to size by hand. And of course the printer, which at the time was around $800. So overall it does require more physical labor, and I do feel that the quality on the eco-solvent transfers is not as good as DTF transfers. Now let's talk about my main pros and cons regarding this printer. We're going to start with the pros, and the first one is that the quality is absolutely amazing. Because I run my business right from home, I love that I'm able to make my apparel with such high quality transfers without having to order from somewhere. Next up, I do want to say that this printer is very beginner friendly and the setup is super easy. This should really be at the top of my list, but this is absolutely perfect for testing out designs. When you're first starting a business, one, it can be very expensive, and two, it can be really hard to find what your customers are gonna like. I wasted thousands of dollars that I didn't even have at the time on ordering bulk transfers that I no longer even use today and that I can't get rid of. All that wasted money could have gone towards this DTF printer and it would have already paid itself off. Next up, like I said, I know that starting a business can be very expensive, and I like that this printer is less costly than other DTF printers that I've seen, and it's more budget friendly. After the pros and cons, we're going to go over how much everything costs, but I do like that you get the quality that you pay for. And lastly, I absolutely love that there is so much less manual labor involved with this printing process. As someone who has tried other methods from home, I can say that this is definitely the easiest one. Now on to the cons. At the top of the list is maintenance and clogging prone. Is the daily maintenance the end of the world? No, it's really not that hard. All you have to do is run a print head cleaning, but it can be kind of annoying having to remember to do that every day. But that being said, if you're not consistent with it, this machine will clog and that becomes an issue. My next con is that it is a little bit more time consuming and slower. It's a little bittersweet because you do get great quality, but it is going to cost you in time. Next up, I don't love that it's not compatible with Mac. I really don't like the Windows operating system. It's a little confusing, so that's a downside for me. And lastly, the DTF powder is a little stinky after you take it out from curing in the oven. And as I mentioned earlier, DTF powder can be harmful to humans, so make sure that you have your oven near a window or invest in an air purifier. And finally, let's go over everything that you're going to get in the bundle and how much it costs. In this bundle, you're going to be getting everything that you need to get started: printer, oven, software, ink, film, powder, cleaning supplies, and the vacation mode setup, all that good stuff. The price for the entire bundle is $3,584, and I did want to share with you guys that it's currently on sale for $3,299. I'm not sure how long that sale is going to last, but I just thought I'd let you guys know. And to help you guys save a little bit more, you can use code NOELICREATES for $80 off that bundle. You can find the exact DTF bundle that I have linked in the description of this video. So that is all for this video, you guys. I hope you found it really helpful, and if you still have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video. And make sure to check out my TikTok and Instagram for more content, and I will see you in the next one.